determining factor to start the year one when the Jewish calendar had been running for?
Yeah, so it was not Pope Gregory that was responsible for, like, we're in 2000, what is it, 15? How did that happen? We were just in 14. Didn't I go, like, I was just like going, wow, 14, that's amazing, right? And then, like, we're in 15. It's like, do you ever think that, am I the only person in this room actually thinks this way? Okay, all right, so who came up with that? We're in the year 2015 or 1995. Who did that? So the person who came up with that is not in the first, or second, or third, or fourth century. It was a Latin monk in the 6th century. His name is Dionysius Exiguus, which literally means Danny the dwarf. Not kidding. He actually. So that's 6th century. There was no such thing in the 3rd century as, no one in the time of Constantine was going, oh, we're in the year 325, go Council of Nicaea, great. But there was no such thing. That is Dionysius Exiguus, a 6th century monk who will try to come up with a chronology, obviously dating from what he would. Now I have a lot of respect for him, not because he just survived as a midget, but because he did a pretty good job considering what he had access to in the ancient world. He had the problem of Matthew and Luke disagreeing on when Jesus was born. Matthew has Jesus born around the year 5 or 6 BCE, as I mentioned last night. Because he's not only contemporary of Herod, but what we are told in Matthew is that the Roman soldiers are given instructions to kill any child who is how old?
2.
Up to 2 years old. Well, if Jesus was just born, you could certainly tell the difference between a newborn and a 15-month-old. So obviously, what Matthew has in mind is that Jesus is maybe 2 years old, something like that. So that would cover it. That would be safe, 2 years and less. So 6 BC, Luke places the census in around the year 6 C at the time, places Jesus' birth at the time of the census. So he's dealing with an impossible situation. So he just comes up with his year one, and that's where that comes from. The influence of Gregory, of the calendar, is on the timing of the calendar, and that goes back to the year of 1582, when the secular calendar is so off. The Julian calendar is so widely off because they don't really know the exact length of a year because they didn't have the Talmud to tell them. It's Rosh Hashanah 25A. If they just paid attention to it, NASA could have saved a few $100 million. They wouldn't have to just look at the Gemara. It will tell you that the precise length of a synodic month is 29.53059 days, and that would have been solved it. But they didn't. So they have to constantly correct it because they have no oral Torah. And so 11 days had to be added in the month of October in order to realign it. But no, the dating of when Jesus' birth to one is a 6th century system that was developed, and as again, given the time he lived in, my hat's off to him. But his name was Danny. So that's where it comes from. There was no one before them talking in those terms. Only the Jews had a continuous, unbroken dating chronology going back to the creation of Adam. We had to, because all our documents had to have it. Marriage, more importantly, divorce. Every document had to date that. So we have an ongoing, unbroken history. In the ancient world, the way you knew what year it was you were told it was in this year of the reign of this king. That's how chronologies were recorded in the ancient world. There was no continuous, unbroken. We have a continuous, unbroken tradition. Okay, so good question.